Everyone. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Adiola Adede, and this is the Covenant Community Group, the film and theater group to be specific. And it's been an amazing semester. I mean, we've had sessions after sessions, and today promises to be and I'm sure muted. Okay, so that's fine. I don't need to tell us to mute our mics any longer. Today we have someone who is really who I respect a lot. I'm not sure I've told him this, but I really respect him. And we're going to be looking at
Adela, are you okay? Looks like you have some interference there. Adela, can you please confirm you're still here? Please, let's give Adela about a minute just to join back. She's been off for a short time. Maybe she has some internet issues. So please, okay, just go.
Okay, so I think give me a minute.
Adela, can you go on, please?
All right, thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. I needed to just quickly be sure that my internet is stable. All right, so like I said, we have James Omokwe today, Director James Omokwe, and what we're going to be looking at is mastering your craft. I'm just going to read his bio and then we'll take it from there. So James is the founder of Fimo Vision Limited and serves as the CEO and Managing Director. He is an AMA and AMVCA and Future Awards nominated filmmaker and producer with 12 years of experience in directing, producing for film and television. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in theater, a diploma from the University of Lagos, of course, and a diploma in directing for film from the New York Film Academy. His skills include producing, project management, directing, editing, and story consulting. His filmography and work experience, he was a director for Awakening, Trumper, Dear Avalon, Highlights with IK, that's a Mnet project. Also executive producer and director for Dear Avalon. And of course, he is the executive producer and director for Ajoche and Riona. Yes. So everybody, please make welcome Director James Omokwe.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Adela, for the accolades. I really appreciate it. I'm very humbled to be here. And I see a couple of people that I know. I see Harry Dunku, and I see somebody that I really respect, Mr. Ben Chiadika. I don't know who else I see, but I'm really glad to be here. I appreciate, I appreciate the love. It's an honor for me to even be here. When people say, "Oh, come on, teach us or tell us things," in my mind, I'm like, I never have a rich person. We would teach person, but I mean, it is what it is. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, and I must say that that's one of the things I really like about you, I've observed about you, is your humility. So let's get right to it. We always like our facilitators to tell us their story. You know, how you decided to, you know, come into film. What was the process like for you? The journey into film and into TV production.
Okay. So the thing was, from the very beginning, I'd always been in love with animation. Funny enough, you know, I loved watching cartoons when I was a kid, and I felt like, in fact, my story is weird. So when I was younger, I used to play with. I don't know if a lot of you played like I played when I was younger. We used to play table soccer back in the day, with bottle cocks and whatnot. So, you know, me and my friends would play. I was England, you know, my neighbor was like USA. Then I can't remember the other. I had one other neighbor. But I used to take it a step further. So when I would go home, I would take those bottle corks, and then they actually had like real life, you know, like I would act out like their real life outside of the table soccer. So it's not that, okay, we're just using them to play table soccer, but each of those bottle covers had like, they were a character. And I know this is weird, but I mean, this was probably like maybe when I was like 13, 14 or something. And then, you know, I used to draw a lot. So I would have newspaper clippings, and I used to do newspaper reports about those characters. So there's one, and I can't forget. So there's one particular table soccer player who I would call David Boyd, for instance, and I'll say, "Oh, this guy's getting married. This guy paparazzi." You know, I used to just tell those kinds of stories, and you know, I would spend time. I think my mother used to think I had a problem, like maybe she thought that I fell on my head or something like that. Like I would spend hours and hours and hours just looking at those table soccer, you know, covers, and I'm creating an entire universe and just telling stories and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. And then I graduated from that to drawing comics. I used to draw a lot of comics when I was a kid. I still have those comics till today. And, you know, one of the things was I kept saying, oh, I'd like to see some of these things on screen. It would be nice, even whether it was as an animation or whatever. And I remember back in 1999, or like, yeah, 1999, 2000, I met somebody, a friend of mine, his name is Ethan. And then I also met his brother. Ethan went on to become my partner till now of my current company. But his brother, we wanted to do some animation thing. I wanted to do this cartoon called Xerox. And, you know, then I didn't know what it took to do any animated project. But, you know, we're just dreaming because, you know, I always wanted to do something out of this world. And not necessarily I wanted to be the first Nigerian to do it, but I just wanted to do something that was so good, and, you know, I was passionate about it, but it didn't work out. So I got into university to study theater, and, you know, towards the end of my, when I graduated, I just told myself, you know what, I'd like to do a film, you know, and I had this vision of doing this short film, which is on Facebook, by the way, and I think it's the worst thing I've done in my entire life. But I eventually you know, got some friends together and we shot this first film, which was my first ever, you know, foray into directing and whatnot. And I was like, oh, I mean, I could finally tell this story because I had done storyboards, drawn it, and it finally came to life. So at the end of my school year, I got this opportunity to work with somebody called Linus Idahosa, who's married to Stephanie Okereke, who runs Del Creative Academy. We used to be in the same music group together. And he was planning to bring New York Film Academy to Nigeria. And I was like, okay, you know, I worked for him, and I somehow attended the classes, and boom, that was how I got a degree at the New York Film Academy. And I just went on to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to make my first film, which was Awakening. So that was pretty much how I got into making, you know, films, and how I discovered my love for making films. Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned that the short film is on Facebook, but you didn't tell us the title. Now, because I know that you don't. No, you're going to tell us the title, because you see, sometimes as creatives, we have this challenge. You do a work and you just think that it's not perfect, you know, you just sometimes you can't even watch it, and then that's just you criticizing yourself. Then imagine that, you have external critics. So I think that if you tell us, we can watch it and say, oh, this is the same director who is doing magic now, see his first work or so, there's still hope for me.
Don't worry, I'll look for the link for you. It's actually called, the name of the film. Let me open my Facebook now. The name of the film is called Grass. So it was it was kind of like a film slash docu, like it's not like a docu-film type thing about weed, like basically people smoking weed, and it was focused on this particular guy who was addicted to it, and apparently at some point he was on a bridge, he was tired of life, he had died, but he didn't know he had died. Before this whole thing finishes, I'll probably find it and post the link somewhere. But every time I watch it very recently, and I was laughing. I was like, I can't believe I did this. Oh my God.
I can imagine.
But yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I read somewhere, and I was shocked when I read this. I read somewhere that you were into acting before you even started producing and directing. Is that true?
Yeah. So funny story. In 2000, I hope I get this right. In 20, I can't remember, but anyway, so I was in Unilag. My sister and I was in Unilag, but I always call it like my first degree. I was going in for urban and regional planning, but I kind of walked away from that because I didn't think that was like my dream, and whatnot. But anyway, one day we're going for this event, and somebody comes up and says, oh, they go to my sister and they're like, oh, we feel like your sister, they talk to my sister, they're like, oh, I think you act in a particular thing. You look like an actor, you look really pretty and whatnot. My sister just laughed and said she's not an actor. However, my brother is the actor, because I used to do a lot of stuff with like my church drama group and all that stuff. So the guy has a conversation with me. He's like, oh, do you act? I said, well, sort of. And then the guy says, oh, come for an audition. So eventually I went for the audition and I landed this role. It was on a TV soap opera called Shallow Waters. I don't know if anybody ever watched Shallow Waters. It was done by Tokpa Yodo. So I think I was on 2 seasons, and it was like a lovey-dovey thing, toasting one girl, oh, give me one more chance, that kind of thing. So, from then, I did something for Franca Brown. I don't know if anybody remembers who Franca Brown, was or is. I did 2 films. Well, one film, it was called Separate in Paradise. I don't know if that film is still available, but I'm sure it is if you go to Alaba at some point. And then in 2010 or 2010 or thereabout, I was also casted for Tinsel. So I was in season 3. It was for a character called Christian Okereke, who was an eccentric writer, who kind of looks like me right now, but he didn't have dreads, but wearing glasses, and he was just a weird guy. But I think that was the end of my acting stint, because for me, one of the things that I wanted to do was, what I really wanted to tell stories, and I didn't think, I loved what I was doing, but I was like, what, I want to, there are certain kinds of stories that I wanted to tell, and I just wanted to start to be the one in charge of telling those stories. So yeah, I was an actor, tribute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you were able to determine that acting wasn't the thing for you. Storytelling was what you wanted to do, and it was better you focused on it.
Exactly. So that was it.
Okay. So I've often heard, because today we're talking about mastering your craft. I've often heard filmmakers say that learning in the classroom is one thing, but practicing on the field is another thing. Could you probably expatiate on that, and how, if you agree, how did that play out for you when you left school and then got into the field?
So I have this thing that I always tell people, and some people disagree with me. And first of all, let me put out a disclaimer. In no way am I saying that education is not important, right? So when people tell me, oh, how about film school, one thing, I'm always like, yeah, go ahead, go to film school, do what you need to do. It's best that you get that you get that training. However, I always say I'm never going to hire anybody who told me, oh, I just came from film school. Here's my certificate. I can make a film. No, it's two different things. And again, I've been doing, and I tell people I've been doing this for like 12 years. And I realized that when I look at what I've done, when I first came out of film school, when I look at the project that I did and the project that I did now, it's on two different spectrums. One thing you realize that and even our teachers in film school tell us there are lots of things you will never experience, you will never learn unless you experience it. And I say this to some of the people, and I'll give you an example. There was a lady who I wanted to hire at some point, and she told me she has experience being a production manager. And I told her, I don't think that you have the requisite skill set to be a production manager on this show. It was our first show at Ajoche. And, she felt, and she's a friend of mine, she felt very bad. She was like, I can do it. I said, okay. But eventually we made her a PA, and, she grudgingly accepted, to do the work. And 6 months into the job, she came to me and said, look, I have a confession to make and I really want to talk to you. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? And she said, James, if I had taken the production manager work, I would have failed woefully, because I realized that it's not just on paper, that there are things that I've experienced. I don't think I would have had the strength or the know-how, the technical know-how to handle these, particular things. So experience for me is key. Education is great. So what education does is education gives you the opportunity to the door, right? So it's like when you study marketing or you study finance or whatever, those things open up the door for the opportunity. Also, yes, I studied to be a DOP, right? Or I studied to be a director, I studied to be a production manager. So I have the skill set. But the experience is a different thing. And then you also have to experience it. So usually I always tell people, start with small stuff and go, because even as a DOP, it will get to a point where you're filming in a particular, I found the film. I was looking for it. I finally found it. So I'm just gonna, copy the link. And I'm just gonna put it here. Please don't laugh at me, people. Anyway, so as I was saying, so, as a DOP, you're on set and something happens, the weather changes, or, the mise-en-scene that you're trying to put together, somebody's color goes off or some lighting goes one kind. Do you understand? Like there's a certain experience that it takes for you to make a quick decision on set to change this or to change that or to do this, especially with the work that I do. So for instance, like I'm executive producer, I'm very hands-on. There are certain times, especially doing a 260 episode TV show. I always tell people doing a 260 episode TV show is like working on a moving train that can't stop. Like once it starts, I always have like, if they give you the contract, you are fine. If you sign it, great. If you start filming, great. The minute you start showing on TV, it's a nightmare, because you're struggling with keeping the show filming without any issues and still maintaining it on air. So there's no, you can't tell the channel, stop. Okay, sorry, we made a mistake. Let's do like this. Nobody has time for that kind of thing. And it takes certain experience to put you in that hot seat to make certain decisions. And my one example, I always give this example, was when we're doing Riona, there was a particular actor who we hired, who had, for lack of a better word, and I'm sorry to say this, but she was a bit bipolar. She was weird. I didn't even know she was, but she just used to act very weird, to be honest. And she used to do certain things, like she slapped somebody on set, one makeup artist girl, and then, we had a conversation about it, and she was like, oh, I didn't do that, whatever, so we knew she had issues. So we wanted to write her off the show. So unfortunately, they had given us AMVCA tickets, and I made a call not to give her any AMVCA ticket because I was afraid that you go to AMVCA and you're going to disgrace us all. So I'm not doing that. But in the meantime, we had already started trying to edge her out of the production. So I think she had like 8 episodes to film. So we had paid her salary. I remember this morning when, we were about to film one of her scenes, production coordinator goes, because we used to provide accommodation, in Amen Estates, because that's what we're filming. Production coordinator goes and knocks on her door and she doesn't respond. And they're knocking on the door for hours because she had an 8 o'clock call time and she's not responding. And eventually I call her and she tells me she has resigned, that she's not, she's not coming on set. She's not coming on set. and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, what the? And trust me, the conversation is weird. I didn't want, like, she says things, and this one is old, so she says things like, oh, that she doesn't want to talk to me because she feels like she will do anything for me. Like I have her wrapped around my little finger. Like very weird conversations. But anyway, long and short of the story, the channel came in, like the babe says she's not filming. Now, it's faced with that situation. Somebody says they're not filming, they don't want to film, they're not interested anymore, and they walk away from the production. What do? And this is happening on a live TV show that is airing every single day. So I had to make a quick decision. And the decision, I had told the channel that this is what was going to happen. What was going to happen? So we were going to do pink pages for the next 8 episodes. Pink pages means we're going to rewrite those pages and rewrite her to travel out of town. So we quickly did a rewrite. One of the actors said the line, oh yeah, where's your wife? Oh, she had to go and do something somewhere, but she'll be back soon. Because in the road, okay, let me not say what she was doing on the show so that nobody will go and find her. But anyway, so we wrote that 8 episodes for her to leave. Now there was something that happened in the show. We had to link it to one of the episodes because we had to kill her off anyway. So we had to link it to the episode where she was going to die. So what I did was we got a body double number 1 who was her same complexion and whatever, because we were going to kill her off anyway in that episode. So we got a body double number 1. And then my VFX artist looked for an old episode to rotoscope her out. Now, what was the scene? The scene was 2 people were supposed to be having a conversation, and one of them was supposed to confess that, I was the one who was in charge of raping your daughter. Now, she was supposed to react to it to be like, oh my God. They were supposed to hear that reaction, see that she saw it, and then obviously say, oh, you've heard what happened, we have to kill you off. So we went and found an episode where she had some reaction. So we rotoscoped her out, shot a blank plate, put her in the scene, and it looked like she was there. And then we used the body double. So when they did the scene, we showed that shot. We showed the body double from behind reacting. And somebody went, strangled her. We didn't show her face. They strangled her, put her on the floor. We showed her leg. You know how when they're strangling somebody, your leg will do like this. And we put it together, and that was it. Nobody knew what happened. Nobody knew. That episode went to air, and that was it. Now so here's my point. Fresh out of film school, that kind of thing happens. First of all, you're under pressure and you won't know what to do. It takes experience to know that this is what you must do. So, which is why I'm saying film school is great. Film school gives you the knowledge, but you have to continuously work on productions and do stuff and fail, stand up again, fail, learn how to move on, continue doing it, and then you get better at your job.
Wow. That's really, really amazing. As you were talking, I was trying to remember the experiences that I've had on set. I'm sure I'll think of something later. But so if you're saying that, because when you said that you wouldn't hire someone who's fresh out of, film school, how then is someone who's fresh out of school get the experience that is required? Okay.
Sorry, guys. I was trying to talk to my son. He's right here playing stuff. So I unmuted and I couldn't mute. But anyway, moving on. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't hire anybody. I'm saying that so for instance, there are certain positions that fresh out of film school, I probably won't hire you for that position. So I'll give you an example. If you're a DOP and you tell me, oh, I'm fresh out of film school and I want to DOP for you, I wouldn't hire you as a DOP. I'll probably hire you as a camera assistant. As a camera assistant, you learn under the DOP, learn the experience, and then you grow up until that DOP space. So for instance, even in production, so the way I do things is I have an entire production team, which is so there's me, executive producer, series producer, line producer. Then under that, you have the, production manager. I usually work with 2 coordinators, and then those coordinators have PAs. And moving on. So if you come to me and you tell me, oh, I was a production manager in my former life, or I went to school and studied production management, great stuff. By the time we have conversations with you and we ascertain your skill level, we'll probably put you as a coordinator or as an assistant, and then watch how you build and grow in the ranks. So the person who's my production manager today started out as a PA. Even though on smaller productions, she had production managerial roles, but each production is different. And it takes, to be a leader in a certain position, it doesn't just only take skill, but it takes emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. And those things together with your skill helps you be in a leadership position. So you can't wake up in the morning and say, well, you want to be a director just because. You can start out as a director's assistant, because some people say they are directors, they will come on shit and be shouting at people anyhow. I say you should do it like this, and they will cuss you out and say all sorts of things. No, like you can't, it's not just about your skill, it's also about your emotional intelligence and your calm-headedness to solve situations. Yeah. And I only put people in leadership positions who can do that.
Awesome. All right. So now I heard somewhere also that you shot a film for 50K. Is that correct?
Please don't mind that publication. That publication, you know, when somebody will write something, they don't know how to articulate. Yeah. So basically what I was saying was my first film, my uncle had given me 50,000 naira. So I was trying to raise money for my film, right? Yeah. Which was Awakening. And I was going around. I think one of the things that I said was, oh, I'm trying to raise money. So I have like 10 friends. My 10 friends would give me like 100K. That's like 1 million. That didn't work out. It didn't happen. So, but my uncle sat me down one day and you know, we had a conversation and he said, well, what do you really want to do? And I told him that, you know, I'm trying to make a film. And then he says to me, okay, I'll give you 50,000 naira. Now, usually him giving me 50,000 naira, I'll probably go and spend it on ice cream and yogurt or something. Because in my mind, I'm like, what's 50,000 naira to 3 to 4 to 5 million that I'm looking for? But I used that 50,000 naira and I started shooting, or I shot one scene of the film. And then, you know, people started giving me money. And at the end of the day, we kind of raised like 5 million to shoot the film. So I shot the film with 5 million, not 50K. Those people, I don't know what they're writing. So yeah.
Okay, so okay. So we'll let that slide. Okay, so I want to use Ajoche as a case study here. I know that a lot of times we talk about, you know, we want to tell the Nigerian story, we want to tell the African story and things like that. And then we come out with contemporary stories that are almost like of you know, Hollywood. But with Ajoche, you did something that is really remarkable. First of all, you know, it was done in a language. It was not done in the major 3 ethnic group language. That's Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo. It was done in Idoma, you know. And I mean, I was trying to remember Idoma. That like Benue State. I mean, the language is not like it's so popular. I remember Benue because of Two-Face, of Bongo Sikwe, and you know, I'm like, how were you able to? Was it deliberate? Did you set out that you want to?
Hello, are you there?
Or even Pidgin English.
Okay, I didn't get the last part. Did I set out to do
Did you get that?
No, the last part I didn't get it. Did I set out to do?
So did you set out to? Yeah. So did you set out to? Did you set out to shoot? You were deliberate. I want to shoot a film in a language that is not predominantly outside Yoruba, Igbo.
Okay, so I'm not going to take the glory for. I'm not going to take the full glory, or the glory, in fact, for doing an epic. That is entirely on Wangi Mbazoku, who used to be the channel director for African Magic. She thought to herself that, you know what, instead of doing modern shows, let's do something African, or let's do an epic. And the reason why she said that was because if you look at, and this is business, if you look at African Magic as a whole, and if you look at all their channels, the channels that rate the highest is, if you don't know, African Magic Epic. Now, African Magic Epic I even hear it's in South Africa, and because it's not on a premium channel, and there are a lot of African stories in quotes, you have a lot of people drawn to those stories. So no matter how much we laugh at the quality of those stories, people are watching those stories. And she thought that, you know what, why don't we try to see how we can transfer some of that audience to the premium, you know, channels. Even though in the beginning of the entire show, you know, we were told that, you know, that show was going to be on African Magic Epic. Now, during the workshop, when we created the story, it was my decision to say, let's not do Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, because those stories are overflowed. Now, if you notice, especially with the African Magic Epic stories, in fact, African Magic Epic stories are mainly 70% Igbo. I may be wrong. I don't watch the channel, but it's what it is. You see, that is an Igbo thing, or it's a thing that's trying to be Igbo, where the costumes are from God knows where, but they are speaking Igbo, or they're speaking English or whatever. So for me, I wanted a space where it's like a business, it's like a niche where you're telling yourself, so you're doing an epic show. Why would somebody else come and watch this that is separate from what's been showing on, the regular channels? So my partner, his wife is Idoma, and I wanted his mother-in-law to sort of like be the cultural consultant, because I used to go to their house, and then when she's speaking the language, I'm like, this is nice. So we're like, oh, you know what, let's do that. But obviously she didn't become the cultural consultant or whatever, but I was really just intrigued about the language. So we decided to make it Idoma. The name of the show originally was called The Kingdom. That was what it was called. That's what Ajoche means. It means the kingdom. But I was like, no, let's do it, with that. Now, why, so I explained why some of the choices that Wangi did, but why we continued in that regard was when we saw the success of Ajoche and how much people were so in love with our African stories, and like the love for that show was so huge that even to today people keep talking about it. Because and somebody told me recently, they were like, oh, you know what, when are you doing another village thing? This village thing we want to watch that because it's our story. You realize how much people are invested in, our culture, and it's almost like a history lesson for them. There are a lot of people that didn't know that, just like you said, a lot of people didn't know that there were Idoma people that, like, all in Nigeria is Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, then maybe Calabar, and that's all, But a lot of people didn't know there were Idoma people. Even with the new show, Riona, a lot of people didn't know that there were Shekiri people. I know many times people ask me, what language are they speaking on the show? It sounds like Yoruba, and I'm like, no, it's Shekiri. Everybody's like, huh? In fact, with Riona, the coronation of the Ogiame was an eye-opening lesson to everybody, because everybody's like, that's what's happening on the show. People are shouting Ogiame, so they are doing it here, so it's real, and it's bringing more people to accept and to own their culture. Because like I said, when we were growing up, they taught us history. I don't think they even taught us, I don't remember. They didn't teach us history in secondary school. You have to go and learn history in the university, and I took it as an elective course, and all they're teaching you is about Mansa Musa. Nobody's telling you about, the Shekiri dynasty or how the Benin Empire. Nobody's telling you all that stuff. Like, everybody's telling you about, the Silk Road and all that, things that don't concern you. And please, history students, correct me if I'm wrong, because I did it as an elective. But yeah, it's what it is. So this is more like a history lesson packed up in entertainment that you can watch at home, and you feel like it's a part of you. So yeah, that's part of the reasons why we did the telenovelas. Like I said, it was my responsibility. It was my decision to make it Idoma, but not my decision to say, let's do epics.
Awesome. So the next thing I want to talk about is the level of work. And when I say work, I'm talking about the research that went into it, because, I remember reading recently when Amina was released on Netflix. I remember reading some people saying that, okay, well, some parts of it does not really represent what their culture. So I'm sure that a lot of research must have gone into Ajoche. So did some actors have to learn the language afresh?
So yeah, most of the actors,
research process, yes.
The process. So some of the actors have to learn. So one of the things is we did have, so for instance, one of the queens, Queen Oganya, was Idoma. So the language rolled off the tongue very easily for her. For some other people, no, they were not Idoma, but we used to teach them the language. So what I used to do then was, because it's African Magic, you can't speak predominantly the language. And then obviously, because of the way the production is, nobody has time to be learning that because of the way production is going fast, nobody has time to learn that entire language. And because you want to work with a couple of people, you can't say, oh, because I'm doing an Idoma show, I have to shoot with all Idoma people, because there's marketing. People want to see faces. People want to see all that stuff. So some of the actors had to learn certain phrases. So what we'll do is on the script, we'll say, okay, this particular line, say it in the language. And we had a cultural consultant who would teach you how to say it, and then you will say it. But let me just quickly go back to the research. Funny thing is, which every tribe, everybody will tell you that you didn't represent their tribe properly. It's a thing. Even if you did it properly, somebody will tell you, no, you did not do it. Or Riona, somebody told us that they used to shout Ogeame, so that you have to say it with small voice. However, in the coronation, people were shouting it up and down. Like somebody's always going to have a problem. But with the research, what we did was we had a research, some girl who traveled to Otuko. So she sat down, and then, you know, because one of the biggest issues we have as a people is we don't keep records. So it's very difficult. Most of our history is moved from word of mouth. Sorry, please excuse me, Tobias, please. Some of our history is, I'm really sorry, guys. Some of our history is moved from word of mouth. So it's very difficult to be 100% accurate with, you know, some of the things, especially for things that happened like in the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, or maybe 16th century and whatnot. But anyway, we had this lady who went to Otuko, sat down with a couple of elders. There were some materials that she read, and then we had a huge document where there was a list of who are these people, what is their source of living, what is their way of life, what do they say, how do they breathe, very huge documents. And then we have that document, and we take it into story workshop, and then the writers build their story around that research documents. And then on set, we have a cultural consultant who, when scenes happen, we always have to make sure, is this thing right? Does this happen? So for instance, on our new show, Riona, there was a scene where one of the king's most favorite wives died. And the way it was written, like, you know, when she died, he held her in his arm. No, when she died and they were burying her, he was crying in front of her grave. But culturally speaking, the king is never to see the dead body. And so the cultural consultant came, you know, in and was like, oh, no, we can't do this. This is how we need to do it. So we are rewriting the scene in our heads on that day of shoot, where the king is somewhere else in another, you know, building, and then, you know, they are burying his wife. So it's very important to have those guys on set to always keep in check so that we don't make mistakes. And then a lot of times people also don't realize that we try to employ creative license in some of the things that we're doing. So it's a story, it's fictional, it's never 100% accurate. So for instance, I'll give an example with Riona. I'm sorry, I'm leaving Ajoche, because Riona, we had some weird cases. So the entire story about Iriale and Omajaja, which is highborn and lowborn, it's not an Ishekiri thing. It is to some degree, but they're not even called Iriale and Omajaja. The Iriales who are the low caste are called Ibiedo, and Ibiedo is a defamatory word. And it has something to do with the Benin people, because if you read the history, the Benin people came, the Shekiris were basically annexed by the Benin people. Like those guys, somebody was sent on exile, some guy, his name is Genoa. He was sent on exile because he slapped his father's wife. Long story. They moved him, and the guy went on a boat, traveled all the way to some land where there were a group of people. And then he decided that, you know what, hey, I want to rule, you know, and then they created a monarchy there. And these people they didn't have any monarchy or whatnot. So that was how the Shekiri people were born. Then there's also the influence of the Portuguese. So, you know, when you say Ibiedo, it means it's like slave of the Benin people or something like that, I think. So you can't use that in today's television. You can't be calling people Ibiedo. Somebody's going to write you a letter and they'll come and assassinate you. So we have to now employ creative license in doing certain things, you know, just because we want to tell a fictional story. So yeah, there's a lot of research that goes into doing these shows so that you're at least 70% accurate with the culture.
Okay, awesome. So looking now at, you know, so you did Ajoche and then now you have done Riona. What were the challenges? Because I'm sure you must have had challenges on those productions. And, you know, earlier you were talking about, you know, the difference between classroom and experience is that, you know, there are some things that there are just some decisions you need to be spontaneous about, and then also being able to manage situations. So can you tell us your experience and tell us the worst case scenario of what happened on any of those sets?
So one of the biggest challenges that we had was, or one of the biggest challenges anybody will have, is when you're trying to do something that hasn't been done before. And when I say done before, maybe not done in a long time. So one of the biggest challenges that we wanted to do was build a village. Pardon me. The first day I mentioned it to the team, they thought I was mad. By team, I mean the channel. They thought I was crazy. They said, I go to Badagry, go and shoot inside. No, I said, no, I want to build the entire thing. And I want to build in a place where I can manage logistics. So I didn't just wake up in the morning to say, okay, I wanted to build. I said, okay, I wanted to build this Amen Estate. I'm also providing accommodation, and then logistics it makes sense to me. And then, I can work. So building a village was the craziest thing that I needed to do. And then also building the village with the elements. So you have rain, and then you have land, especially in this Ekpe, well, the Ekpe axis. The land is it's not hard ground, it's swamp. So then you have to worry about sand filling, or if the area is already sand filled, you have to worry about, water deposits under the ground. Because most of those places, when you're building, by the time you go 6 inches, well, 6 inches is even long. By the time you go like 3 or 4 inches down the ground, water is already coming out. So how do you manage, building, that village in the rainy season? And how do you, manage, like just make sure that, you don't have, any issues. So the first time we did it, like I said, we had to sand fill parts of the land because the land in itself wasn't viable enough for that kind of production. So if you notice, one of the issues that people had on the show was that, we're doing Ajoche, and Ajoche is based on Idoma, but there's white sand on the floor, which this is now part of, because in that part of town is clay sand that they have. This is now part of the creative license, because in the land that we're building, is the sand is not great. So the only way for us to maintain, to stop flooding, is to put sharp sand, and sharp sand is white sand. So, I mean, these are things that you have to think about, because or else your entire set is underwater tomorrow, and then you are swimming with the sharks and whatnot. On Riona, one of the biggest issues that we had, it was the same thing, because we went to check the land, and we all felt that the land was perfect. So we had built already, and then that was during COVID, but we had come back, and when everyone was open, we had built. And when it was 85% or even 90%, 7 days rain now fell. I promise you that the water in that land was up to my knee. So now the question is, you're running from frying pan to fire. And we didn't have the luxury of white sand to put on the entire, space, because we wanted vegetation. So in where we're trying to build, we didn't want sand like before. We wanted to put vegetation here, vegetation there, and so on and so forth. But now we're in the middle of a river. So I got a couple of my guys together to say, okay, how do we solve this? So what we did was we built two reservoirs, like very deep, like 12-feet reservoirs in specific areas of the land. So I had to get a surveyor to look at how the land was. So where we realized that the land was slopey, we built 2 big reservoirs, and then we built a bridge. So if you watch the show, you see some parts had bridges. It wasn't in the original plan. We built it because we're like, what, Shakiri is in a waterlogged area. So, hey, why not? The rain has helped us. So we'll build the bridges anyway. So the bridges was a last resort. And so these are places where there's a problem. You have to figure out, okay, what's the way forward? I can't suck all the water out of the place, but what else can I do? So those were some of our biggest challenges: flood, especially building in the season of the rainy season. So for instance, we're also, and this is the first time you're hearing this, but we're also planning for another epic, and it's also in the period of what we were doing last year. So we're already thinking that in the time frame in which we're going to be building, there's going to be that 7 days rain is going to happen. So what are the stop gaps that we need to put in between? So we're already thinking gutter ways, reservoirs, and having a standby water tanker that can, remove water just in case it rains. Also, we're also thinking about elevating parts of the set, where even if it rains, the parts that we need to film is not covered by water. So we're already making those plans way ahead of time to mitigate the risk of, flooding and, our set being destroyed. So, flooding, and even building the entire set, looking for a land, those are some of our biggest challenges. And, we found ways to work around, those problems.
Yeah,
Please, I hope
so
I'm
I
making
mean,
sense.
oh, you are making so much sense. So that with what you have said now, that means that as a filmmaker, the more you do, the better you become. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not necessarily.
If you're learning from your mistakes.
Not necessarily. And there were some points I put together, based on the theme for this, program. I had like 7 points that I had put together. One of those points is a very important point that I learned from Bob Iger, who used to be the Tobias. I'm really sorry. One of those points was a point that I learned from Bob Iger, who used to be the former CEO, well, now chairman of Walt Disney. And he said, innovate or die. And I'll explain. And this just doesn't apply to filmmaking. It also applies to business. Sometimes people are very comfortable doing one. So you've done something over and over and over and over again, but you're very comfortable in doing that particular thing because you found a winning formula. So that winning formula is it. So your own is, if I do A, is B that will come out. That's it. So you keep doing it for years to come. And when you keep doing stuff like that, there's no way you get better. And there are tons of examples, especially in our film industry, where people are not willing to go overboard. Now, if you're willing to innovate and tell yourself, okay, after this show, I want to do better. It's a conscious effort, and it's something that you have to do consciously with your team and say, and so I have a mantra with my team. With every show, I tell them, okay, so we're having a show next. How do we make it better? And the next show needs to be 10 times better than the last. So you think about it, even if it's in costumes and the costumes need to be more detailed, or the set needs to be bigger, or if you need to get the better actors, whatever it is you need to do, somebody needs to look at this new show and look at the old show and be like, no, this is what did rubbish. This show is great. And that's, my mantra. So it doesn't apply that, oh yes, you do films every day, you get better. It's a conscious effort that you have to put where you want to do better with every show. So you look at what you've done and you keep telling yourself, okay, I want to do better. One of the two people who impressed me the most that I love watching or love listening to is James Cameron and I can't remember his name, but he's one of the directors of Iron Man, Jon Favreau. Now, if you look at Disney, and I'm sorry, I'm going far, but if you look at Walt Disney and you look at, James Cameron, every time they're always asking themselves, I want to shoot something, but I don't have the technology to do this thing. So I'm going to build the technology. And then in 10 years time, I'm going to be ahead of my time. So when they bring out films, you're saying, oh, it's so great. Meanwhile, these guys have spent years building the technology, building their skill sets to make sure that when they bring out a film, is where you people are 5 years ago, they're like 10 years ahead of you. It's the same way with Walt Disney. Like, there's this technology that they have, is like an Unreal Engine thing where, and I know most of you must have seen it, where instead of going to practical sets to shoot, they have this big LED screen, which is powered by Unreal Engine, where when you're filming, it makes it seem like you are in a real space. So you can change the lighting, change the topography, change all that stuff. Because somebody woke up in the morning and thought that I can't be going to locations all the time. So I want to do this thing in the studio where everything is controlled. The weather is controlled, the lighting is controlled, and I can shoot whenever I want. And that's why these guys keep getting better. And we need to apply that same mindset when we're doing our own stuff.
Awesome. So my next question now is, so you started with film and then you went into TV.
Yeah.
Was that deliberate, or it was just something that happened? Because someone who is just starting is thinking, what should I start with? What is the process that I should start with?
Yeah. So I'm about to say a lot of controversial things here. Please don't quote. Well, you can quote me, it's fine. But when I say don't quote me, not don't quote me, like don't listen to me if you choose. These are my own opinions, and some of them are very well informed, but I'm not here to discourage anybody. I think that film is okay, let me say it slowly. I think that currently, shooting a film is not a viable business. It's not. Quote me anywhere. It's not a viable business. One of the reasons, so I'm not just a filmmaker, I run a business. So I run a film company. And part of my job is, apart from the creative side of things, there's also the business side of things. So I'm not ignorant of the fact that the business side, there's a business side of film, and it is very important. Now, why do I say filmmaking is not viable? Because if you look at it, as time goes by, cost of production for films are getting larger. You can't pay an actor 100K anymore. The cost of production is going up, cameras are going up. So your cost of production, the percentage of the cost of production is getting higher and higher and higher and higher. Now, in the space where COVID exists, now you have to convince people when you make a film to watch your film in the cinema. The thing is, how many people actually want to leave their comfort zone to go and watch the film? And you need to remember that the cinema experience or the cinema culture is not a big culture in this country. Here, especially in the VI parts or the Lekki parts, everybody says, oh, I'm going to the mall, I'm going to see a movie. But think about it, like half of you have pirated copies of films on your laptop, right? I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying, like, half of you have pirated copies of your laptop, and some of you are just going to be like, I'm going to wait for it to come out on Netflix. And probably you don't even own your own Netflix account. It's probably your brother's, uncle's, wife's, auntie's Netflix account. So long and short of the story, it's not a viable business. So if I make a film with 50 million, for instance, and I put it in the cinema, no matter how many weeks it stays or if it struggles to make any money, you need to realize that. So if, for instance, if I made a film with 50 million, so let me throw this question out there, especially to people who are, listening to me, and you can type in the comment section. If I made a film with 50 million and I made 100 million, do you think I've made money? So I made a film with 50 million, but I've made, in the cinema, you hear that, oh, the movie made 100 million in the box office. Do you think I've made money? Okay, Harry says no. So let me explain. So when you make a film with 50, let's pretend in that movie you spent 30 million or what, or maybe 40 million, and you did P&A for 10 million, whatever. When the film comes out and you've made 100 million, please note that inside that 100 million that they've made, you're paying taxes, which is 7.5% now. So there's the tax that you pay to the government, withholding tax. Then there's something called entertainment tax. Then you pay your distributor 10%, right? By the time you calculate that entire money, you're parting away with almost 70% of your earnings. So what's left to you is 30%. So you made a film with 50 million, you made 100 million, you're walking away with 30 million. Do you understand what I mean? And when you've done that, now you have Netflix to contend with, and Netflix has aggregators. So those aggregators will probably, they'll do your movie for like maybe $20,000, $30,000, even though there's hope now. I'll explain the hope now, but I mean, there's hope now with Amazon Prime and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you end up realizing that, and please note, that 50 million is not your money, so you collected it from somebody else. So by the time you've paid all that money back from Netflix and co, you've given everybody your 50 million back, then what are you now left with? Then you struggle with the cycle and you want to go and start another film again. It's not a viable business. Do you understand what I mean? However, there's hope in the horizon because there's Amazon Prime now, and Disney is coming, HBO is coming. So all these guys, there's going to be a demand for film. So there's going to be there's something they call it. There's going to be a war. It's called the streaming wars. So everybody will be bidding for your work. So now you can make money, but it's still at the beginning stage. It's not like it's going to start today. However, TV for me, I think I was at the point of my life, because when I made my first film, I spent 5 million. I made 400K, right? And I was owing people money. You can't post on Facebook when you go on vacation. You can't say, oh, I'm chilling at the beach. By the time you put it, somebody will tell you, where's my money? Do you understand? Like, what kind of life is that? So, I was owing people for 3 years. It was until I joined TV that I was even able to pay those guys back. Now, I don't want to live that kind of life where I'm making bad investments and it's not working. So, when the opportunity for TV came, I realized TV was paying me more, even just as a producer. I remember when I was doing highlights with Ike and they paid me my first salary. In fact, they paid me 3 months salary at once. It was the highest amount of money I'd ever received in my entire life. This was back in 2015. I stopped on Ikoyi Bridge and I was shouting like a bad man. I'm sure somebody thought I was crazy. But, in my mind, I was like, oh, good stuff. And then when I became an executive producer, it was a totally different ball game. And why I like being an executive producer for TV is that it's not my risk. The only risk I have is just making sure that the TV show works, which is a lot of hard work. And I know I'm making it sound easy, but I don't care if people don't watch the show. Well, I do, but it's not my concern. I've done the show for you. You've paid me my money. Carry your show and go. Join us, and whatever you do with it is your problem. It's not my business. I'm not working. I don't care about P&A. I don't care. It's not my problem. You hired me for a job. You are paying me for the work. You shoot the show. It's doing great. Goodbye. That's why I like TV. Now, there's the other side. Do I want to make a film someday? Yes, I do. But I'm trying to find, and I have found it, a viable business plan or an ecosystem that makes sure that when I invest in the film, it makes a lot of money. And I found it. And I'm going to make films in 2022. But it took me, my last film was 2013. It took me all this time, almost 10 years, to find that particular thing, to say, okay, this is how this thing is going to work. And that's what it is. So that's what I'm going for. But to cap it all up, the biggest problem we have and why we're not making money is we have a faulty ecosystem. What do I mean by ecosystem? It is the end-to-end, Tobias, it's the end-to-end value chain of the economy, right? Somebody said I should cut soap for you. Don't worry, I have Tura soap. So it's the end-to-end value chain of the film industry. So I'll give you an example. If you have how do I explain this now? Like most of the companies that you know, they make products, they sell products, they make products, advertise those products, they sell products to consumers. Consumers buy the products, make enough money, and it goes back to the beginning of the value chain, which is make more products. The problem we have is we're making products, we're publicizing the products, but nobody's consuming the products, or we have very little people who are consuming the products, or we have people who are pirating the products, or we have people who are trying to watch the products for free. And there's not enough money coming out from that end. So it doesn't come back to the value chain, right? So once we have an ecosystem that works for us, and I have my theories about a lot of things, I'm not even going to go into them today, but once we have an ecosystem that works perfectly for us, then we can decide, you can make a film you can make a film for 100 million and have almost a 2% risk, because you know that bad as it bad, if I sell 3 million copies of this movie at 200 naira a pop, I go make like 600 million naira. Do you understand my point? So yeah, that's what it is. You see why I say I'm a businessman.
Oh, you are making so much sense. Okay, so you mentioned that, you know, with Amazon coming, HBO and the rest of them, someone is thinking, how do I position myself? You know, how do I how do I position myself?
Okay, so long and short of the story, I'm hoping that everybody who was here, I mean, I don't know if you had Afrif. Afrif was one of the best places to be at this year because it was a huge avenue for marketing and to network, long and short of the story. But if you weren't there and you're a filmmaker, that's fine. I think that first of all, Amazon is going to open, so Amazon is not working with any aggregator. They are really interested in having relationships with filmmakers. Please don't quote me. I don't work for Amazon. I'm just saying. So that they want to have relationships with filmmakers and they want to build relationships with these filmmakers as time goes by. However, Amazon is the opportunity. Netflix is the opportunity. The question is, how are you bringing yourself to this opportunity? Because please note that there's a standard for how these companies work. It's not a secret anymore. I was at a Netflix training where they were teaching us about, you know, their process, their end-to-end process from, you know, scripting to post-production and stuff. It's a big deal. So it's not a case of, oh, I did one film, I edited it on my laptop, here you go. It doesn't work that way. It's a lot, it's serious business. It's a lot of work that goes into putting your stuff on Netflix. And I'm not even talking about licensed stuff. I'm talking about even getting like a Netflix original or an Amazon original. It's a big deal. And you have to prepare yourself for that position, because when they start looking for stuff, you have to ask yourself, am I willing, am I capable? Which is why I say a lot of experience comes into play. So am I capable enough to fit in these roles to be able to deliver content to so and so people? That's where you need to be. And you have to ask a lot of questions. But in terms of licensing and co, these guys are willing to license content. And again, your content has to be great. So you have to be a good filmmaker on your own. You have to produce quality content on your own. You have to be able to tell quality storytelling on your own. build a repertoire for yourself, and by the time you have that content out, they'll be rushing the content and they want to put it on their platform. But you can't do like that. My first short film. This is my short film now. Then you say you want to sell it to Netflix. Even Glow TV will not collect. So yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's really it. So it's you just build your skill. I mean, see, let me tell you, this is the era of the producers. And I'm telling you, it's the era of the producers. Because the guys who are the first, let me talk like the Bible, the first partakers of this blessing are showrunners and producers. So you have to go and be friends with showrunners and producers, because those showrunners and producers are the ones that will hire you under your wing. Because first of all, there are very few showrunners in this country, very few. I can count them on my fingers. Everybody is making TV shows, everybody's making films, but it's not everybody that can make films efficiently and make TV shows efficiently. It's not everybody. And these are the people that they are looking for. Oh, can I give you a show for you to do and make sure that I can sleep well at night, knowing fully well that this show is going to be done? So it's the era of the producers, the era of the creators. That's where we are now. And as long as you're a creator, as long as you're a producer or whatnot, you would be engulfed in this, stream of blessing. Everybody's going to be engulfed in it. So I'm not saying that it's also the area of the writers. It's also the era of the writers. Writers too, they're also looking for writers. So I'm not saying that production managers are not going to enjoy or whatnot. I'm saying that right now you have to start finding good teams of people. Not everybody's going to get a Netflix original. Not everybody's going to get an Amazon original, but you can get it by association. So for instance, if Deola now, somebody comes and says, Deola, we're giving you a Netflix original, and then you go and you are working for Deola as a PM. You are a PM by association on a Netflix original. They don't necessarily give it to you as a PM to say, oh, take a Netflix original and go and PM your way out of it. No. So start looking for, as you're building yourself up, start looking for capable teams and people that you can work with and people that you know have sense and people that you know that, yes, so these people, their work ethic is 100. As the thing falls on them, it's going to fall on you. That's how to strategically position yourself. Thank you.
Awesome. So I know that a lot of people have questions. So I'm just going to say at this point that if you have a question, just indicate or type.
Sorry, Deola. Before the question, I did put 2 things. I put like 7 things, and I just want to quickly just run through those 7 things. It's very important in the in just following the mastering your craft. But I'll just quickly just brush up on those 7 things. I put them down, and I think that in all these things that I've said, everybody's like, yeah, they want to do it. Oh yes, I want to be one of the guys who do this and do that. But if there's certain things that you need to do to make sure that you're on that spectrum, one of them is you have to commit and take your work seriously. I've worked with a lot of people over the past 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and a lot of times people don't think that their job is serious enough. In fact, people don't even take filmmaking seriously, first of all, because you just think that, oh, you are just coming to work and we're shouting roll tape action. You have to be committed and take your own work seriously. It's I didn't know that I could live I pay my son's school fees or live comfortably just by being an executive producer. It happens. Some people can live very comfortably and go on holidays just by being a PM, as long as you take your work very seriously. The second thing is just do it, no matter how small, no matter the skill set you have. We were talking about how you need to continuously, you need to keep doing stuff over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's a short film, if it's an ad, if it's a skit or whatever. The point is, the more you do, the better you get at your job. Like, you're used to it. They say if you keep practicing, you get better. And it doesn't matter. Stop waiting for that big production. Stop waiting for that 500,000 naira job or the 300,000 naira job. That 20K job that they say you should come and do skits. You want to be production manager, go and do it. So let it be that this guy is the best production manager for skits. As you are doing it, before you know it, this guy is the best production manager for television. Before you know it, it's the best production manager for Netflix. So just do it, no matter how small. And then number 3, find a mentor. Find somebody who you respect. And when I say find a mentor, it doesn't mean that you call the person up and say, I want to be your mentor. Even if it's that, Fafa, every Tuesday, sir, one day, teach me some of the things that you know. Let me take some notes down. You find somebody who you know their work ethic is out of this world and learn from them, even if it's one day. Sometimes a lot of people send me messages and they say, oh, they want me to be their mentor. But the message goes like this: oh, Oga, please be my mentor and don't forget me. Yo. It's really about work. It's really not about mentorship. It's really, they just want work. And yeah, if I don't forget you and I give you work, do you have the required skill set to do the work? And are you willing to learn more? A lot of times people are more interested in making money than actually honing their skills. You need to find a mentor. You need to find somebody who you respect and learn from the person. That can take you very far. The fourth thing is build a team of people that you trust. I have a team of people that I've worked with over the past 8 to 9 years. Some of them have gone, some of them have graduated, some have removed, but some I've worked with them for a very long time. What happens is those people complement your own skills. You can't do everything at the same time. So in case if you're a producer, you're only as good as your own team. So people just say, oh, James is a good producer. James is this, James is that. I'm as good as my team. You take everybody away from me and I'm powerless, right? So build a team of people who you trust, build a team of people who as hungry as you are and who can achieve the same results as you can. You guys will become formidable. And number 5, motivate yourself. Watch things, learn every day, and try to motivate yourself every day to be the best at what you do. Number 6 is what I mentioned before, which is innovate or die. And that practically explains itself. When you're doing whatever it is you're doing, you always need to make sure that you need to get better at what you do, or else you'll be left by the wayside. And number 7, you always need to be consistent. A lot of times we are never consistent. By the time you've done directing work like 3 years and nobody called you for work, you say, you know what, I'm tired. I want to become something else. Try as much as possible to find the niche, find what you're good at, and keep doing it. One day, somebody will find you. Thank you.
Awesome. I don't know if anyone has a question. If you have a question, please just go ahead and type it in the comment section or raise your hand so that we can take your question. I was going to ask something before you went. Okay, yes. Yeah, so I was gonna ask that what are the key skills that a producer should have? You can also unmute yourself, please, if you want to ask a question. Just go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, so we have a question from Uzoma. It says, why do you think it's taking so long for Nigerian filmmakers to fearlessly leap into producing content for a global audience with budgets in the $5 million plus range?
2 things. Number 1, there's a part in the Bible that says, he who is available in the little will be, he who is diligent in the little will be diligent in the much. Long and short of the story. The question is, we're already talking about 5 million budgets. The 300K budgets that we're doing, are we diligent in doing that, those kinds of films? And are we producing world-class standards on those small budgets already? The question, if you can't do it on those small budgets, or you can't do great films on those small budgets, there's no way that a 5 million budget will do anything for you. And people think that the bigger the budget, the better the film will be. That's not true. The budget really is about scale. It's not about how the film looks or the story that you're telling. It's not about that. It's really about the scale. So these telenovelas that we do cost a lot of money, but it's no different from the film that is 10 naira, that has a good story that you will tell. The other thing is greed, because the question is, a lot of times, and I've had this experience even just talking to investors and talking to just even hearing stories about the Bank of Industry and all these guys that are investing in films. Even the small money they are giving people, a lot of people are not even accounting, they are not even accountable with that cash. I've heard stories of how somebody's giving you money for a production, you take out some money, go and buy a car, you come back. So who's going to trust you with $5 million? But the most important part is, if you think about it, if you were Marvel or you were DC, and you said, oh, I want to give the Nigerian filmmaker $5 million to do a big blockbuster movie that is of world-class standards. Tell me the truth. Who are you going to give? There's nobody. Let's not tell ourselves a lie. There's nobody. There's none. Because, and I say this emphatically because I've been in meetings where some of these guys are saying things like, is that the best that can come out of Nigeria with this budget? There's no way we're giving you $6 million to do a film. It's what it is. So that's why. I hope I've answered the question.
Okay. Let's see, do we still have any more questions? While we wait for, okay, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, but while we wait for that, there's this question I want to ask. How do you get past self-criticism and external criticism, taking what is needed and, leaving what is not needed? How do you get past that?
So the more you do this thing, okay, the more you do, okay, no, because I was about to say the more you do this thing, the harder your skin becomes, but that's not true. It's different with people. I have a different outlook to criticism. I take it full-heartedly because I'm willing to learn. We did a show on African Magic called Unbroken. I was consulting producer for the show. The show did have some issues here and there, so I was called in to consult, for the show. Obviously, this is not the place to talk about those issues, but the show was done, and a lot of people complained about the show, like they were abusing a lot of things about the show. And the thing, it was paining me. But the point is, I just told myself, if only these people knew what we've gone through just to get this done. However, I thought about it for a second because I was like, you know what, these guys are actually saying the truth. Because if somebody says, oh, they don't like this hairstyle or they don't like this wig, it's not a good wig. You can't go on Instagram and be telling people, oh, the wig is not good because we didn't have money. Who cares? Do you understand? Like, nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
They don't like the wig, they don't like the wig.
Yeah.
The reason why people watch your content is because they want to escape. Unfortunately, you give them one cloth that is not looking good. Then how many are you going to tell the person, sorry, the cloth, yeah, we know that the cloth is not nice. You can't do that. So I realized that some of the things that people kept saying were valid stuff. Some people had outrageous things to say, even though they were not valid. But the thing is that, you know what, I take what is valid and I don't take whatever, is not valid to me. And I try as much as possible to learn. So I have a very open mind to criticism. I don't let it touch me. There was an experience with a famous filmmaker that we all know who did a famous thing for a famous red streaming service. And people were talking about how they didn't like the thing and they are going around blocking people. And the truth is, they were valid in some of the conversations that they had. And I understand how touchy it can be when you've created something and people are like, oh, they didn't like it. But guess what? You created it, you didn't create it for yourself. You created it for people to consume. It's like, and I made an assumption. I said, if a chef who works in a restaurant cooks food and the food is crap, and you give it to somebody who pays for the food and the person says they don't like the food, are you not going to tell the person, get out of my store? I'm not going to tell the person, get out of my shop. I paid for the damn food. You better be cooking some good egusi and jollof rice, or else stop cooking. You get my point? So it is what it is. And that's my opinion. But it takes a bit of maturity to get to that level. The truth is, when I did my first film and people said they didn't like it, it pained me. I'm not even going to lie. But it gets to a point where you're mature enough to say, you know what, some of these consumers are right. And maybe sometimes they're over the top, but what can I do better to make sure that whatever it is I'm doing next resonates with these guys? That's all.
Yeah. All right. Eze Peters, you have a question? Eze.
Yes, I do. I was actually typing the question. Thank you so much for this word of wisdom that you're passing across to us. In August this year, I finished from film school and did my short film as a group in school, which won the best film at the end of the training. And a week afterwards, I shot my own independent short film. Be out next month. I'm also working on another short film for next month as well. Now, my question is this: there's this idea I've been developing, and it's new. It's new to the Nigerian space. It's not a feature film. It's more like a narrative documentary, and it's new. And I begin to develop Kofi because I've not seen it here locally, and it looks like a huge an elephant project for me. It's going to be a series. It's a series more like going to TV. I'm feeling like it's a challenge for me. It's a hurdle for me to climb. I don't know. I'm beginning to have second thought because it's new. I'm new to this, and I don't know. What's your advice for me at this phase? Because I'm feeling like, can I pull this off? And what if I fail? I don't know. I need you to advise me on this, and probably we need your email so I could have a conversation with you and have you as a mentor to help me put through this.
Okay, cool. Adela, is it okay if I type my email? Is that okay? Okay, so I've typed my email. It's my personal email. So number one, like I said before, I'm not very good at mentoring people because I feel like I'm still learning, but I can have conversations with you in terms of the things that you want to do. Me, I'm still a small boy in this industry. So me too, I'm looking for mentor. But in terms of your project, so you asked a question, you said, what if you fail? And I'll ask you another question, which is, what if you succeed? Like, you can't base your outcome on variables that you have no control over. Two things will happen: is either you fail or you succeed. Either of those two options is not a bad option. If you succeed, it means it was great. If you fail, it means that you are learning how not to do it like you did it at that time. And that's the mindset that you need to have. In 2015, I wanted to start, and I'll say this, I say this all the time. In 2015, how many of you have heard of this thing called Quibi? It's a streaming service that launched but failed. A short form streaming service. It's called Quibi. Google it. It's it was real. In 2015, when I started my company, we were doing the exact same thing: short form, authentically African content as a streaming service. I put my own money inside, 26 million naira, and it failed woefully. I didn't die, neither did I fall on the floor, neither did I say, I'm not doing it again. It only taught me how not to do it as I did it before. So now we've realized that what was more important was not the streaming service. It was the content that would be on the streaming service. So we're rebranding that content and putting it on social media. So I've learned, 26 million naira later, I've learned how not to do it the wrong way. Long and short of the story, only two things are going to happen. Your film is going to fail or it will succeed. And you have to be prepared for those two outcomes. And you have to psych yourself mentally to say that, yeah, if it fails, then we'll just go back to the drawing board and do it better. If it succeeds, then we know that we have a winning formula and it goes. If you look at the lives of inventors, creators, or investors, everything they invest in never always makes it. In fact, people invest in like 10 ideas. They probably throw in money on those 10 ideas in hopes that 3 of those ideas are going to work. That's how investment works. So don't be afraid to push that idea, because it's that idea you never know would be the one that will just blow up and just make you the most important man in Nigeria. You never know. But if you don't try, you'll never get that opportunity. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? Because we're looking at the time, we don't want to keep James longer than necessary.
I'm fine. No, today is Sunday. Okay.
Okay, so does anyone have any question? Yeah, so I was going to ask, what do you read, what do you watch, to stimulate your, your creative, get your creative juice running?
So, what I do, so recently I traveled and I don't necessarily watch anything. I mean, I watch a lot of things, to be honest. Like I watch things, I play video games, I do everything to get to stimulate my brain, because there's a story everywhere. There's a story in video games, there's a story in cartoons, there's a story in everything. But I love traveling, and sightseeing opens my mind to experiencing other cultures and hearing other stories, and it expands my storytelling scope. So I went to Ghana recently, and I went to the Cape Coast, where I went on a tour, and they told us about the entire slave trade thing. It's a beautiful story, and it just rejigged my mind. And I came back and I was busy writing things on paper. I said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So those are the things that I do to help me, apart from watching things and experiencing other cultures. I told myself that before I hit 40, I want to travel to all the West African states all the West African states, basically. Yeah, so I do it.
Okay. So I mean, you mentioned I know that you like animations and the rest of them. Are you planning on doing anything like that?
No, not anytime soon. Because to be honest, doing that takes a lot of resources and a lot of time. The truth is, it's in the distant future, and we're building resources towards that, but not anytime soon.
Awesome. All right. So let's see. Does anyone have any question? Okay. Uzoma has another question. Since storytelling is universal, is it not important that we get die-hard fans from other parts of the world beyond Nigeria? Lots of Game of Thrones fans in Nigeria. Can we say the same for Nigerian content?
So just to be correct, you are asking that, can we get die-hard fans from outside the outside Nigeria to be in love with
world, yes.
Nigerian content? Abi? Is that the question you're asking me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, that's already a given. That's the reason why Netflix and Amazon and HBO are coming here. That they're like 10 years ahead of you. That's the reason why they're here. They're not here for you, just so you know. Netflix is not here for we're bringing our services to Nigerians. Half Nigerians can't afford data, so they're not here for you. They are here for the diaspora market, because they've realized that the diaspora market is in love with our culture. I'll give you an example. When did I go for that thing? In 2014. So here's another quiz. In 2014, I don't know what it is now, but who do you think was the highest consumer of Nollywood content? Guess. In the world, though. You can type your answers in the comment section. And this is from data. So if any other person wants to try, just give me, somebody said USA, somebody said Euro. I'm going to type the answer in the comment section, and you know.
Whoa.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia in 2014 was the highest consumer of Nollywood content. And when I say Nollywood content, it's not King of Boys. It's Ake and Popo, the giant throne, Blackberry Babe. Those are the things that these guys are watching. See, you have, let me tell you, Nigerians live in a bubble. You don't understand how big your industry is outside of this place. There was an Afrifa I went to. Nigerians lose billions of dollars in revenue from piracy in other African countries. There are African countries that are playing your films on TVs, and it's pirated versions they are playing. Like, you guys it's huge. So you don't even love your show, your films as much as people love them outside. That's the thing. So there is a market, and that's why these guys are here, because they've realized that we want to be able to tell Nigerian or African stories, but we can't tell it like these guys, number one. Even if we decide to do it, it will cost 3 or 4 or 5 times the amount. So we're going to come here and give them money that they think is big money to make the shows, hold their hands while they're doing it, and sell it to the diaspora market. That's the business plan. So it's not for you. So to answer your question, there are diehard fans of Nollywood content out there. I mean, look at King of Boys. King of Boys came out. Somebody in the parliament was talking about King of Boys. I'm sure most of you saw that video on social media. So they like your content, you know. Yeah.
Wow. We've had a really, really, really interesting time with you, Director. I want to see if I can take one more question, just one more question, because we have 5 minutes left. Who wants to ask the last question before I tell Director to give us his final words? All right, so go ahead, Peter, easy.
Yeah, James, the movie industry here, I want to ask, what do you think is the place of green screens, in enhancing our movies, what do you think is the place of VFX, green screens, and stunts? Majorly lacking in our industry. Do you feel that having this in this industry at this time that the industry is trying to move from where it has been to the next phase? Do you feel that this is the right time to come in with this new? It's not new per se, but new to the industry.
I think the major thing that people need to focus on is storytelling and look at all these things as add-ons. The biggest problem sometimes is where people are very like, okay, I don't want to call it about the film, but there was a film that came out at some point that was very heavy on VFX. It's like the guy just had the guy just woke up in the morning. He's like, you know what? I'm going to VFX the hell out of this film. I don't care. And that was, he just showed off his VFX prowess, but the film lacked story. Can we do the VFX? Yes, there are people that are doing mad VFX things in the country, but you need to realize that story is what is important and these things are add-ons. So the question is, in my story that I want to tell, is there a place for VFX and green screen? And because I work with a lot of people that do green screen and stuff, what kind of green screen do you want to show? Are you more interested in how you just want to see something on screen and everybody will be like, oh, it was so good? Like there's so many films where there's green screen, you don't even know it's there. We did it on Ajoche many times. There are many times where you see a white shot, you see plenty hots at the back. It's not plenty hots that was there. Or there's a scene that I have. Hold on, let me see if I can take a picture. Okay. Oh, shit. Am I allowed to share my screen?
Go ahead.
I want to show them something.
Yes, you can.
Okay, now give me a minute.
Go ahead.
Give me a minute. Okay. So I'm going to show you something. So can you see this thing that's on my screen?
Yeah.
You can see it clearly. I didn't hire all these people.
Yes, yes.
If you see my mouse, can you see my mouse? Can you see my mouse? This is the only, these are the only real people here. These people here. Every other thing is duplicated. Every other thing here. So if you see, and it was one scene that happened one time, and somebody told me, oh, in fact, one day somebody watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, how did you hire all these people? I'm like, no, I didn't hire all these people. But because of the story, that was episode 1 of Ajoche, and we needed to show how the king's wife had been killed and he gathered his entire army and he was going to burn down an entire village. So we needed to show how powerful that scene was when he was like, kill them all, kill them all. So it needed to be in the story as an add-on. Do you understand what I mean? I could have shot it in such a way that I didn't need to see all those people, but my point is, so VFX, it exists, it's all there, but the question is, do you really need it in your story? Don't put it just because you want to put it, or you want to show people that we can do VFX. So if it's important, there's a place for it. And it depends. It may not be, loud VFX. It may be very silent VFX that people don't even know, is there in the scene. I'll show you one other thing, Tobias. I'll show you some. Yes, you can. I'll show you. There's something else. I don't know if I have it. Sorry, guys. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to look for something. Okay, I don't know that I have it on this computer. Let me. I wanted to show you guys something else. Let me just look for it one last time. If I don't find it, then that's okay. Okay, I got it. So hold on, let me just share the screen one more time. Please, I hope I'm not talking too much. I hope
you're doing fine.
So I'll slow it down very carefully and I'll explain. So can you see my screen? So if you notice, if you look at the screen, you see a snake. Right?
Yes. Okay.
Can you see that? So you see it. Let me move this thing away. So you see it. That wasn't a real snake, obviously, right? But in the scene, these guys were coming back from somewhere and they were supposed to be chased by a snake. Now that's purely VFX. The guy who did that shot for us, his name is Kenny Badex. Currently works for some foreign company now. They've carried him away. But anyway, long and short of the story is, it was important in the scene and we had to add it. And the scene happened so fast that a lot of people again kept asking me if it was a real snake. So again, to answer your question, is it important in the storytelling that you are doing? If it is, of course, there's a place for it. If it's not, why bother?
All right, thank you so much, Director. Thank you so much. It has been a very, very interesting discussion with you. We've learned, you talked about commitment, talked about, just do it no matter how small. You talked about finding a mentor, building a team of people that you trust, motivate yourself, get better, and be consistent. Thank you so much, Director. I'm sure you have the final word.
Hey, again, I'm available for, you can email me some questions. Like I said, I'm not very good at mentoring people. Well, not like I'm not good at it. I just feel like I'm not a mentor, is my thing. So, I'm still learning myself, but I can answer some of your questions based on my experience, based on the little experience that I've gathered, based on the work that I've done. I don't know it all. I'm still learning and I may be wrong in some of the things that I'm saying, but yeah, some of the things that I will answer will be based off of my experience, and you feel free to make those experiences by yourself. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want us to go ahead and unmute our mic so that we can just, tell James a big thank you for, coming on.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We're very grateful.
So I want to say something, and guys, I don't know if you guys are, but is it? I really want to know. Did you guys actually learn something, or was I just talking too much, or do you agree with some of the things I said, or I was just yanning? Because it's also important that in as much as, and sorry, Diola, I'm doing this. It's very important. I personally it's like customer feedback. I need to know that what I've said makes sense, and if you want, and it's okay to challenge anything that I've said. Like I said, I don't know it all, so you can challenge some of the ideas that I've pushed out if you feel like, oh no, I don't believe in this or whatever. But it's also important that at the end of the day, you've taken something away from this conversation. So I'm asking an open-ended thing, like, if anybody agreed or if you learned something and whatnot.
On the contrary, I think you make a good mentor. So
I agree.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate.
Yeah.
And anybody else? Somebody says I learned a lot. It was very detailed. Thank you so much. I appreciate. Anybody else? Okay.
Yes, I'm going to say that, some of the things you said might be a bit unconventional, and I think that it's not in it being unconventional, it's in whether it is producing the desired result. So there's a saying that it's only a fool that keeps doing the same thing same way and expects a different result. So if you're doing something and it's not working, then by all means look for something that is working. So I believe that what you have said today, a lot of them are unconventional, and there are things that, and the good part is that, this session is recorded. We can always go back to understand and digest what you have said. So I personally, I've been motivated. I've learned a lot. It's an eye-opener for me, and I believe that is the same for everyone who has been a part of this session. And I'm sure that if anyone has questions, you've given us your email address, so they can always chat you up and ask questions. We promise not to disturb you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We can allow you exit now. Thank you so much, Director. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, bye. Bye, guys. Bye.
Okay, yes.